Okay, so part two of balance, and I split it into two parts because there's one thing that I think is really important towards games that I wanted to talk about. But first, trying things out. I'm going to go through a setup for an arena style game. Now, I think I've said this before, and one of the things you're going to have to put up with in these things is me saying the same thing over and over and over and over again because A, I'm forgetting what I've said. B, it's all interconnected, right? Everything's connected up to everything else. It's one of the reasons why the rule books are so fragmented. It's a downside, but it's also a good thing. I don't like the fragmentation, but I like the fact that rules can be integrated into each other, right? And an arena style combat game, like an arena style game in any given group, is a good place to try out things like homebrew rules, a new scenario, because the arena doesn't just have to be a couple of mechs in a room and beating each other up. You can make it an actual scenario if you want to. The race game that we did, you could easily turn that into an arena style combat thing, like it's a Solaris style game. Award money for the winner and etc., right? So you could easily set that up, but it's a good place to test things out and try new things out. If you want to put some little tweak into a game, you want to have your was it the RPG Destiny and Time of War, whichever one you're using. If you want to have your RPG players introduced to something, then whether it be a new scenario, a new character, a new rule, something homebrew, whatever, the arena is a decent place to do it. I'll probably talk about that more often because I've thought about it a few times now, and it kind of swirls around in my head a bit. But the one thing that I wanted to go into in this one was your objectives. Now, when you're trying to balance your games out, like make them feel like they can be won with skill and a little bit of luck and some more skill and some maneuvering and that sort of thing, instead of just, oh, this thing is, this is how you win sort of thing. One thing that you have to really look at, one thing you have to really go through is your objectives, and specifically what objectives you put in there, what win-loss conditions you put in there, and how you word things. Okay? Now, one of the things that I see a lot, and I think one of the reasons that you come to the Steiner Scout Lance level of play is the win-loss condition that they almost always put into games, into these scenarios with, it basically says that if you kill all of the enemy, you win. Right now, in a scouting type mission, and I'm going to go into some scout missions in a bit, look at some complexity and try and do like 3 different levels of scouting missions. But in a scouting mission, as far as I'm concerned, you are trying, as an overall thing, not necessarily even in BattleTech, but as an overall thing, you are trying to get information about the enemy. You are trying to get through enemy lines. You're trying to get information about the enemy, some sort of like troop movements, force sizes, locations, secondary targets of opportunity, all that sort of stuff. You're trying to get that. You're trying to get that information, and you're trying to get it back to your side, right? So that an assault can take place, or a landing can take place, or bombardments, artillery, all of that sort of thing can happen. That information has to be gathered and then retrieved, right? Now, yeah, you can say, well, modern communication satellites, all that sort of stuff. But if you're assaulting an enemy planet and you send a group of scouts out and you haven't got like satellites and things around the place, then, you still need to go somewhere, get the information and get back. Now, doing that in an atlas to me is just silly, right? You need fast-moving units. You need to get there, get the stuff, get back. But if you say, kill all the enemy and you win in your scenarios, then you're kind of destroying that, right? And I'll try and explain what I mean here. It's not easy, but it's a thing that's in my head that just kind of makes sense. And they say, well, common sense isn't very common. It is. It's everywhere. It's just that everybody has their own version of it. And it's common sense for you, but not necessarily for someone else. So I'll try and explain what I mean. Let's say you've got a scout mission, right? And you set it up and you have time limits and you have a BV and you go, okay, you can take whatever you want for that BV, but you have to get to this spot within a time limit and then get back to your deployment zone in another time limit. So say you've got, be generous, you've got 10 turns to get to this location. You've got to stay in that location for 2 turns, make a successful piloting skill roll on at least one of those turns, and then you've got 10 more turns to get back to your deployment zone, right? Very generous timing, right? But you also include the, if you kill all of the enemy, you win scenario, objective, win-loss condition thing, right? Now, I could spend all of my BV on the best pilot in the best assault mech I could get, stand at one end, and then just pick everything off, right? Or slowly advance up the table and pick everything off. Now, let's say you've somehow managed to get an Atlas, right? You've got an Atlas, you've got him on the board, and you slowly plot him up from your deployment zone up towards the target area. He's got 22 turns, technically, as a minimum, to make it there and back, right? And it's 15 turns in, and he still hasn't even got halfway up the board, but he's killed everybody. He's managed to just take out the last guy. Now, he's got no time, right? There's not enough time there for him to get there and back. But because he's killed everybody, he wins. That to me just makes no sense. Okay, so if you are creating scenarios, I would very seriously consider whether or not you put that particular objective in, that win-loss condition in, but I would also seriously look at each of the objectives that you feel needs to be in there, make sure you word things properly, and make sure you consider each one carefully and whether or not it needs to be there, right? Certain mission types need certain things to happen. There are 100% mission types where killing all the enemy means you win, no matter what, right? A defensive mission, an assault mission, you kill everybody, you're basically set, right? But some of them, it just doesn't need to be there. And it just throws the balance off. It means that people can take big plotty mechs for things that need fast units. And it doesn't feel right to me personally. Some people, I'm sure there's text with Adam going, no, this isn't real, this isn't a thing, Steiner forever and all that sort of stuff. But that's not the point, right? For me personally, that sort of thing just is something you have to be very, very careful about what you put in. And it's just, yeah, it can make or break a scenario. It can really change how the game plays. A scouting scenario with kill all the enemy and you win can be a very different proposition to a scouting scenario without it. Trust me. So, yeah, hopefully anyway, that's given you a little balancing stuff. Again, if there's anything specific that you want me to go through again or a bit more in depth, just chuck a comment down and let me know. But I'm trying to keep these to about 10 minutes, so there we go. All good. You guys take it easy, eh?